difficulties here. Camera pointed the wrong way. I'm gonna wait for Kristen from Defend Young Minds to join us. Looks like she's here. And I'm gonna let her in. Such an important topic to talk about, and I'll introduce Kristen and her amazing business when she gets on here. Let us know where you're joining from. Hey, Kristen.
Hey, Katie. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I was just going to introduce you and kind of this topic, if that's okay, and then we can get going, and I'll let you introduce yourself as well. But Kristen Jensen is the author of the #1 best-selling book, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. And there are so many versions of this based on where your family's at, where your kid's age and stage is. And I'm so excited to talk to her because this is just addressing screens in general, but protecting our kids from pornography and from predators in the online space. And something that I think in my stage of parenting, my kids are 3 and 5, it can feel a little bit far off, but it's not. It's here now. And I'm super passionate about how amazing books can be for talking things that are really hard to deal with. And like, as a parent, we don't really know how to navigate. The big P word, pornography, feels really uncomfortable. And I love your book. So we have the junior version. And I'll let you talk a little bit more about like your brain defense digital safety curriculum. You're the founder of Defend Young Minds, which has gone through a recent name change, I think. So you can talk a little bit about that. But this junior version is awesome. And just so matter-of-factly goes through the subject of pornography and what our kids should do, and has an amazing section for parents in the back on what do you do if your child does come and tell you that they saw pornography, and just now some of those things as well. So this huge section here. So Kristen, why don't you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about you, your family, your business, and how you started this movement.
Yeah, well, it's so great to be here with you, Kaylee. It's always wonderful when the technology works and connects us. So, well, I never set out to become this person that fought pornography or help parents. But I was about 12 years ago, I met a woman whose kids had been affected by pornography. And the oldest one, in fact, had started to act out sexually on his younger brothers and sisters. And that is unfortunately happening more and more. And it's fueled by pornography. Kids are naturally imitative. And if they are exposed to pornography, their brain naturally kind of pushes them to reenact it. I'm not saying that every child does this, but it is happening more and more. In any case, I talked to her when she told me this tragedy that had happened till late in the night, and woke up the next morning and just had this kind of idea in my mind, like a drum beat that wouldn't go away. And I started looking for books that, because you've got books for child abuse and things like that. And I thought there should be a book explaining the dangers of pornography. Something that children can understand, simple, but giving them the information that they can then start to protect or defend themselves. So I looked and looked, couldn't find anything, and started writing Good Pictures, Bad Pictures at that point, naively thinking it would be a couple of weeks project. And it took 3 years. But we tested it with so many parents and made so many changes and revisions to the language and everything so that it just flows and it works, and it makes it comfortable, which does seem a little counterintuitive to talk to kids about pornography and it being comfortable. But I've seen so many people say that it is that I believe it.
Yeah. I love
yeah.
it's so far from body shaming. I think sometimes when we talk about these things, it can, some of I was exposed to a lot of purity culture and that mindset of that our bodies are bad. And I loved in your book that it talks about how our bodies are good, but they're not to be shared inappropriately or to have people ask us to share our bodies inappropriately. And it's just such a
Yeah.
phenomenal book. I know a lot of the moms and parents watching have littler ones than a lot of your audience that you speak to on your account. But can you kind of speak to what are the statistics surrounding exposure to pornography? What ages are kids getting to see these things, whether it be accidentally or they're shown by a friend, and kind of where what are the top places that they're seeing pornography?
Right, right. Yeah, sure. So I'm just going to preface this with a statement that it's not easy to study in a, you know, to study children in this topic. You can't really get a group of 3 to 10-year-olds together and ask them if they've seen pornography. That's not going to fly. But you can ask teenagers. And so, I used to, when I've been speaking, I was quoting a statistic, actually, that a security company told us that is named Bitdefender, and it said 10% of the people, the visitors to the top porn sites were kids 10 and under. And that is shocking. That is shocking. But I just heard a new report that Common Sense Media did on teens and pornography, and they asked the teens, at what age were you exposed to pornography? Now, that's not the most accurate way, but it's the best we have, right?
Yeah.
So 15% said that they were exposed at 10 or under.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's 15%. But I have so many anecdotal stories of kids getting exposed in preschool, getting exposed in kindergarten, on the school bus, and so it's really difficult to know what the truth is as far as but the thing is this, when it's your kid, it's no longer about statistics.
Right.
Then it's your kid is a statistic, right?
Right.
So that's why I always recommend that parents begin warning children and empowering them to defend themselves at the age at which they start having any access to the internet. I think that, when our kids have any access to walking and running out into the street, we warn them about the cars. They could get hurt. Don't run out, right? Every parent has had this, gone through this. And so we have to do the same with the, super highways of the internet. We can't just let them go out there and cross our fingers and say, I really hope that they don't stumble upon anything, because it's very easy for young children to do that innocently. And it's also very easy for kids to be curious, and they hear something from their friends and they go looking. So I would say about half of the kids that get exposed to pornography, it's accidental. Maybe even a little bit more than half, maybe like 60%. And then some of them don't go back, but some of them do go back. So I think our kids deserve, a warning. And Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior was my second book. The first book I wrote was for children ages 7 to 11. And as I would go around speaking, parents, I started having parents saying, well, what about younger kids? What about 3-year-olds? What about, and I'm like, 3-year-olds? But, when I started looking around, every 3-year-old had an iPad. And now I have grandsons who are 5 and 3 almost. So they're getting to the age, and I've read Good Pictures, the book that you have there, to them several times, and their mother does too, since they were like 2. So they know what to do, and they can recognize it. And that's really powerful for a child to be able to recognize it and know exactly what to do.
Absolutely. absolutely. And I am a pediatric therapist, and so a huge part of my world is what we call social storying. And so, like, these big things that kids are going to go through or may go through, we walk them through a story with pictures and helping them to understand what's going to happen. And this is gold when it comes to,
Yeah.
it can be so easy with these difficult topics to retreat into ourselves. And like you said, think, oh, I'm going to limit screens, and, we're going to have all these things in place, all of these filters, which we're going to get to next. We're going to do all of these things. So I don't even have to worry about it. We don't even have to have that conversation because I'm protecting them and I know that they will not have access to this. But it just isn't true. And
No.
what your account talks about is how online predators focus on ways that they can get to kids creatively. So a parent sets their kid up they think is totally harmless, and somehow someone is able to infiltrate that with inappropriate language or being predatorial, or leading them to pornography. And it's just so disheartening. And I can even remember in middle school when we first started doing research on computers, there was this one website that they were like, don't type this in, it has to be .gov. And I don't know if you have any idea what I'm talking about, but
I do.
even then people were trying to use a common keyword to get kids to stumble upon pornography. And it's just so disheartening. And so having these conversations before you have to worry about it is so important. And I heard something, I can't remember where I heard it, but they were speaking about pornography and just exposure to sexual language and things like that. And they said, your child is going to be exposed to the age of the oldest sibling in their friends group. So maybe your child only hangs out with kindergartners or preschoolers, but they have an older sibling who's been exposed to a lot more than they have and has different language that they do than they do, or maybe was looking at something and they happened upon it. And you just can't trust that they're just functioning in that same age range. So I do want to go into the filters thing, because I think this is something that a lot where parents will feel safe. Oh, I'm going to give them this iPad, or I'm going to give them this thing because I've put parental controls or filters on it, or whatever it may be. And they feel like they're safe then, and they can walk away and the kid can, have quiet time or whatever independently with that device. Would you talk a little bit about how good is the level of protection with most filters and most of those parental controls? Just kind of a little bit about that.
Yeah. Well, first of all, I do encourage parents to get filters. Now, you can have filters on your Wi-Fi. There's a product called Griffin that is a Wi-Fi that replaces your router. It's a router that is, and they try to keep up with all the threats so that you don't have to worry so much. And then there's filters that you can put on devices. There's parental controls. There's all these layers. And I would say do what is reasonable. Do what is reasonable that you can do. But then once you've put a filter on your Wi-Fi, once you've put a filter on a device or set up the parental controls, know that there's just no. In fact, I've talked with the CEOs of several filtering companies, and they all will admit that it's not 100%. And that's why they're talking to me, because they all want to also encourage parents to build an internal filter with their children. And so you have to have both, right? You've got to have the high-tech answer, which is the filters, and that's very important. Even just to kind of say to your kids, look, I'm serious about this problem. I want to protect our entire family. I'm not just putting a fence up for you. I want to protect our entire family, and I'm serious about it enough to figure this out, to pay, some amount of money every month to protect all of us. And so I think that is a very strong message, which I totally, absolutely, 100% support. On the other hand, your kids are, like you said, you mentioned that about the oldest sibling. And I tell a story about a woman who I know that she was very careful about her child and who he went to play with. Like she basically did an FBI background check, on everybody. But there was a new family, and he just wanted to go down, grab his friend's bike, and they were going to go bike riding. So she says, what harm is that? It'll just be a second. But when he went down to the house, um, they went inside for whatever reason. And once they were inside, the older brothers said, "Hey, come here, I want to show you something." And they showed him pornography.
Mm.
So, but this little boy, his mom had read him, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, had talked to him, had prepared him, and he knew what to do. So he went home and he told his mom, and she said, in a way, it was beautiful because our plan worked. He came, he told me I could help him work through that experience and use all of the tools that she already had to help him with that. So I think both are absolutely so important, because if we're not talking to our kids about pornography, if we're not talking to them about sex from an early age, then their friends, the internet, will do it for them. They will get it. And, you have the opportunity to be the first, make that first impression. So I would say definitely do the filters. And we have a lot of articles on our website about filtering. It's not our main, focus. We do really good articles on it, but our main focus is the parenting side, the conversation side, the relationship side, and just give your kids a definition of pornography, a warning, and a plan. That's what the books do. A definition so they can recognize it, a warning so they know that it's dangerous, and they'll have reasons, right, why they should reject it, and a plan so they know exactly what to do. So every kid deserves that. Every child deserves to have that.
Absolutely. Well, and that kind of answered my next question, which is what are the practical steps that a parent could take? So for sure, getting your book. I know a lot of parents in my community would benefit from the junior version of Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. But like I said, there are many different ones for different ages and stages of your kiddos. Consulting your resources, looking into those filters. Your blog is linked on your Instagram, which is Defend Young Mind. Any other thoughts on just like next steps? And even if it's one of your resources I haven't mentioned, feel free to talk about that here so that parents know how to access those things.
Yes. So I would say the first step is to educate yourself. And we have a free downloadable guide called How to Talk to Kids About Pornography, the Quick Start Guide. So it's brief, it's short, but it gets you a lot of the information that will give you a really good head start to going ahead and having these conversations with your kids. And then, I would recommend getting Good Pictures, Bad Pictures. The one you have is for 3 to 6 year olds, but I've had parents read it to 8-year-olds, 2-year-olds. So, depending on what you think is best. And then the one for the older kids, 7 to 11, really talks about the brain and how the brain becomes addicted, and the thinking brain and the feeling brain, and it really gives kids a lot of information about, but in an easy to understand way. Most parents will say, I didn't even know that. So it's really good education for them. Then we have brain defense, digital safety curriculum, which it's not taught by me. It's taught by the Brain Gang, which is these 6 diverse, really cool teens that teach, healthy tech habits. They teach them to reject pornography. And I'll tell you, when kids hear it from their parents and other adults, and they hear it from older peers, it makes a huge difference. It makes a big impact on them. So I would say get the guide, download the guide, and then you can hop on over to Amazon for the books. I will say we are experiencing difficulties keeping them in stock. And some of that is a lot of people want to buy them, but some of that is Amazon is having some inventory difficulties. So if you see it's out of stock, we have not stopped printing it. It will be there in a few days. Put it on your list and come back. This has been really frustrating for us, but you can only do what you can do. But then if you think it's been of value to your family, we would love you to drop a review on Amazon. That's always so helpful. But yeah, get the guide, How to Talk to Kids About Pornography, and then look at our other resources. We're just here to serve. We're here to help and be a support to parents. It is rough out there. And my heart really goes with all parents because, like I said, I'm watching my grandkids grow up, and they're getting to that age. And so I'm kind of experiencing it again with them and with my daughter. So, yeah, take that first step. It's not as hard as you think.
Yes.
That's the other thing. It's not as hard as you think.
Yes, and the book just makes it so easy to not have to find that language yourself, and I'm looking forward to downloading that guide too. Yeah. And just a brief guide before we end, you mentioned the addiction component. I feel like parents need to know that there's not something wrong with their child. They're not some sort of sex addict or porn addict, that it is inherently addictive to their brain, and you have some great research why that is. And that's what you're saying is the book for older kids. I think that's something incredibly important for parents to educate themselves on before their child is in that life phase, and all the more reason to start this education on how to deal with when they see pornography, because it is made to be addicting, and if your child has something wrong with them, it's just the neurological setup.
Actually, they're normal, right?
Yeah.
If pornography did not affect your child's brain, that would be abnormal.
Right.
We are all human. We are all biological beings. And you're right. Pornography is designed to take advantage of that and to pull them in. So we have an article, Why Good Kids, get pulled into porn. And it's written by a therapist, and it really isn't. And some of the best people I know have recovered from this addiction. So I'd never judge anybody. I don't. And I certainly wouldn't judge a child.
Absolutely. I just think it's so to know, because I think I could see myself when I saw some of your posts about it. I could see myself, should I be in that situation where I suddenly realize my child who I've tried to protect is addicted to porn, I would then think, oh my gosh, is there something psychologically wrong with my child that they're addicted to this now? And it's not, like you said, it's normal, and it's made to be that way. And I love, if anyone's watching and wants to hop over to Depend Young Minds, you're always good about showing how, like you did something on Roblox, which I know very little about, but I know families play that, and talking about how predators can be in that space as well. And so I'm just so appreciative of your time. I'm so excited for this resource for all the families in my community to continue to dive into further. And thank you so much for all of your wisdom and your help.
Well, thank you, Kaylee. I appreciate it.
Have a good day.
You too.